Hey gang, welcome to another episode of Inside Sofa. So I recently did some research on the Sofa App Store page, and I thought that this would be a good opportunity to share my process, how I did it, and share some of the results. Before starting any research effort, I always like to ask the question, what do I want to know? Now, it may seem like an obvious question to ask, but you would be surprised how often people conduct research without asking this very simple and obvious question at the beginning. What do I want to know? So the things I'm looking to understand are really overall, how well is the Sofa App Store page communicating? So if we break that down, it's really a few things that I want to understand. Number one, what is the App Store page communicating, the Sofa App Store page? How well is it communicating that? And then what, if any, blockers are there that would stop people from making the purchase or downloading Sofa? So now that I know what I want to understand, the next step is to figure out the type of research method you want to choose. So there's a lot of different research methods you could choose from. The one I settled on was essentially design validation. I'm testing the concept of this page. Is the overall messaging working? Is the imagery working? So design validation can be very helpful for those kinds of things, to get people's more gut reactions to how things are working. Okay, so far we're clear on what we want to know, and we're clear on how we're going to get it. The next thing we need to do is a little bit of prep before we actually conduct the research. There's a couple questions that come up during this process, right? It's more the logistical things. So how are we going to conduct the research? Who is going to be the recipient of that research? How many people do we need to test with? And what questions do we ask them? For facilitating this research, I decided to use usertesting.com. So user testing is a great product that allows you to conduct remote, self-moderated usability test. This really helps logistically with finding the people that I need to test with and actually conducting the research. They handle it all for you. Now, for finding people to test with, this is also part of the user testing package. So they have an awesome panel, which is just a word they use for a large group of people that you can pick the test from. Now, when you're doing design validation, you essentially want to have kind of a set list of questions that you want to go through. It's kind of like usability testing, but it's a little more open-ended. You want to create maybe a little script that you want to give the people to run through. Now, normally I would write this myself, but user testing offers awesome templates to get you started for a lot of different tests that you may want to do. They had a template that made sense for me to get started, and I was able to just kind of tweak it for exactly what I needed. That was a very unexpected time saver. Once I had all my prep work done, it was time to test. I only wanted to test with 3 to 5 people. What I decided to do was send one test out at a time. Now, this is good logistically because for each person you test with, it's $50. So if I sent out the first test and maybe I made a mistake or something was a little off, I could tweak the script or the test a little bit to send out to the next person. So I actually prefer to send it one at a time. That way I don't waste $50 because it's $50. So now the fun part. What did I learn? You've done all this work up until this point, all this planning and prep. Now you get to actually see the results of the test, and it's super exciting to be able to see that, see where the problem areas are, and try and think of ways that you can solve it. So I learned that the overall Sofa messaging is actually working pretty well.
Basically, it's just note-taking, an app that you can use to take notes or to help you remember for what shows and movies you want to see, books and things like that.
So this app offers the user the ability to have the ability to organize a list of what they want to watch and read so that they can easily access it when they want to.
It looks like it offers ways to kind of categorize and list out your books and movies that you want to read or watch.
What's coming through is that Sofa is an app to help you remember things to watch and read, which is which is good. That is the main point that I was trying to get across. The next thing is that price is a potential barrier. Now, I actually knew this going in. Sofa is $4.99. As we all know, a paid app in general, even if it's 99 cents, is enough for someone to pause and maybe just go look for something else.
It is $4.99, and it seems like that's a little bit kind of expensive for something that's just above what a Notes app is. So that would be something that would make me kind of deter me from using the app, especially since I haven't used it yet.
Okay, I see that it's $4.99. Immediately, I'm a little wary because I don't really like paying for apps. I feel like there's generally a free version of most things that work just as well. But we'll see what this has to offer.
You may be thinking that, well, if price is a barrier, then just make it free. I have a few reasons why I don't want to do that. First, Sofa has to make money. I think charging for the app is a good way to do it. Another reason why I think it's worth paying for is the main competitor to Sofa is actually your Notes app. So things like Apple Notes. That's what most people are using today. So you just dump stuff in there and hope for the best. What I'm proposing is that, well, Sofa is a much better solution to that problem that you already have and you're already trying to solve. And that solution is worth paying for. Now, one of the bigger reasons that I want to charge for Sofa is really around commitment. If I download a free app, there's really no commitment there for me to use it, right? Like downloading a free app is so easy, and really there's not much thought you have to put in to making that decision. But if an app is paid, even if it's a few bucks or even $1, you have to think about that purchase. When you make that purchase, you've committed more financially, but then you've probably even thought a little bit more about that purchase, which means once you download the app, there's a better chance that you're going to actually use it. There's so many apps that get downloaded and never used, like never even opened once. And that's not something I want Sofa to be. I want it to be a product that people use, people love, and helps them with whatever job that they have. Another thing I've learned is that organization is a huge benefit over the Apple Notes app.
Because it's so simple, it's not as easy to organize it, put it into a category.
It's not organized, so if I put it on my notepad, I can't easily find it, especially if the list is long. So it's not as organized as having an app that would organize things for me.
A very unorganized process, no methodology behind it, just a very unorganized list of titles usually. I don't even know if they're books or movies half the time. I just write down something really quickly.
Now before, I was saying that Sofa was better than a Notes app, which is still true, but it's kind of too generic to say it that way. And what this test showed me is that by saying that Sofa is more organized than a Notes app, that can be more specific. And it's still true, it's still saying it's better, but it's saying it's better in a more specific way. It's saying, no, it's more organized. Because the problem people have today with things like Apple Notes is that when they put stuff in there, it's just a mess. It's hard to control, things are all over the place, and it's hard to dive into that mess and find the information you need. I found out I wasn't talking about the activity view at all. Now, this was a mistake on my part.
It looks like it has little what are they called? Radio buttons, so it makes me think that you can check things off, and that is really appealing to me.
The activity view is an area where you can essentially track the movies and the books that you've watched or read, and it shows you essentially a timeline of all those things. Now that's actually a very cool feature for people who like to see the progress that they've made with either reading books or watching movies. And I wasn't talking about that feature at all. So very silly on my part, but it's corrected now. This is where you do the analysis. You can use this in any way. Some people like to use whiteboards, sticky notes, Excel spreadsheets, whatever works for you is totally fine. But essentially, you want to start capturing the things that you've learned, the key insights. So you may want to go back and reread things, rewatch videos, save clips, that kind of stuff. Now, once you understand those core insights, you need to make a plan for what to do next. What changes are you going to make? When can you make those changes? Are there long-term things you need to think about or stuff that you can figure out right now? So for me, since this was pretty small in scope, I was able to make these changes to the App Store page for the next release. I rewrote some of the marketing copy. I made some new screenshots to fill in some of the gaps that I had. Overall, very easy to make these specific changes. So that's it. That's how you do research. It's actually really easy and not that time consuming to do. When you think about it, it's really, really important, because without this stuff, you would literally just be guessing about what's working and what's not working. So thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this episode of Inside Sofa. If you haven't yet, go download Sofa from the App Store. It's only $4.99, $5. That's it. Super cheap, super cheap.